He said I wasn't wife material. Said I was too sharp.
Too intense.
So I didn't argue. I didn't text him back. I just waited. And on his wedding day, I walked into the venue. In heels. In full makeup. With a flash drive. And I played everything. They always say weddings are about the bride. But not this one. Not today. Not when I was standing at the edge of the aisle. In 4-inch silver heels. With a flash drive in my clutch. And a fire behind my smile. No one recognized me at first. Why would they? He never talked about me to his new friends. Never posted pictures. Never even used my real name in his phone. Just S. Just last girl. Just the one he called too much. I didn't crash the wedding. Let's clear that up now. I didn't break in. Didn't sneak around. I was invited. Not by him, God no. But by someone who knew. Someone who'd seen the messages. Heard the late-night whispers. Known, deep down, that he was about to marry someone under false promises. I walked in calmly. Venue was beautiful. Tall ceilings. Soft white draping. A pianist playing some slow rendition of a song that once played in my car when he told me I was his piece. The irony was sharp. He was already standing at the altar. Tux sharp. Hair styled. You'd think he was an angel waiting for heaven. But I knew the truth. I knew what he sounded like when he lied. When he stuttered under pressure. When he said, with that fake sincere voice, "You're amazing, but not wife material." That's what he told me. After 2 years. After I met his family. After I helped him get the job that paid for this entire wedding. He said I was too sharp. Too driven. That he needed someone who would fit better into the picture he had in his head. And apparently, that picture didn't include a woman who called him out on his inconsistencies. But she was there. His bride. The soft one. The kind one. The one who thought she was starting forever. She wore white. I wore silver. I walked slowly down the side aisle, just as the officiant opened his mouth. People turned. Eyes narrowed. And then, he saw me. And I watched his entire soul try to climb out of his body. I didn't speak at first. I didn't have to. The DJ saw me. I handed him the flash drive. He looked at me, confused. I nodded once. And he, bless his gut instinct, just did it. The screen behind the altar lit up. And there it was. The first slide? A text. From him. To me. Wish I could see you again. Don't tell anyone I messaged. It's complicated. The room froze. Then came the voicemails. You know you're the only one who ever got me. I don't even love her like that. Then a photo. A selfie. Timestamped 3 weeks before the engagement. His face. In my bed. The bride's mouth dropped. Literally dropped. She looked at him. He looked at the ground. I didn't look at either of them. I looked straight at the screen. Because that moment wasn't about them. It was for every woman who's ever been told she's too much. Too bold. Too loud. Too honest. Too independent. Too not wife material. I turned to the bride. Our eyes met. She didn't cry. Not yet. She just looked at me and nodded once. A small, shaky nod that said, "Thank you." Then she walked. Down the aisle. Out of the venue. No bouquet toss. No slow dance. Just the sound of truth, echoing off the walls he paid to decorate. And me? I walked too. He didn't say a word. Didn't chase me. Didn't try to explain. Because deep down, he knew. I didn't ruin his wedding. He did. I just pressed play. 7 days before the wedding. I created a folder on my desktop. I named it April Budget Review. Not because I needed to budget. Because no man ever checks a folder called budget. And that's what he counted on. Me never checking anything. Never asking. Never investigating. Never documenting. He thought I would vanish quietly. But I wasn't vanishing. I was organizing. It started when I saw the engagement post. I hadn't followed him in months. Had him muted. Had her blocked. But Instagram has a way of unearthing ghosts when you least expect it. It showed up on my explore page. A photo of them in the park. Him on one knee. Her crying. Caption said. She said yes, ring sparkles, can't wait to marry my best friend. I stared at it for a long time. Not because it hurt. But because the ring looked familiar. Not familiar like I'd seen it in a store. Familiar like I picked it out. He'd asked me once, casually,
If you ever got proposed to, what kind of ring would you want?
And like a fool, I told him, showed him pictures, sent links,
Even said, I like something with meaning over size.
and now, she was wearing it. That was the moment something shifted. Not because I wanted to ruin her life. Not even because I wanted him back. I just wanted him to know. I remember everything. And worse, I had proof. I opened my old texts. Not just his, everyone's. Screenshots. Recordings. A video of him saying,
She's incredible, but not the type I'd marry.
he didn't know I'd recorded that. Didn't know I kept it. Didn't know how much I'd kept.
Over the next 48 hours, I went to work.
Pulled up my call logs.
Found the night he FaceTimed me from his hotel. The night he was supposedly visiting family.
Background showed a different woman in the mirror. Didn't notice her at first. But when you slow it down, you see everything. I opened my inbox next. Typed his name into the search bar.
Found confirmations from restaurants.
Shared flights.
Spotify playlists he made with her name in the title.
But sent to me. He'd copy-pasted love. Mass-produced it. And I kept it all.
By the second night, the folder had 5 subfolders. Voicemails. Screenshots.
Photos. Timelines.
In case I forget why.
That last one? It was for me. To remind me this wasn't revenge. It was documentation. It was closure with timestamps. I found a woman in Detroit.
He told her he was single. Told her I was an ex who wouldn't let go.
She cried when I called her. Another in Chicago. She didn't cry. She just said,
That coward.
and the third? Still thought she was the only one. We built a shared drive. 3 women. All different stories. Same man. I wasn't planning to crash the wedding at first. That wasn't the point. I just wanted to build a timeline. Something I could look at and say, this is how it happened.
This is how he fractured me.
But the more I built, the more I realized, I wasn't fractured anymore. He was. And his bride? She deserved to know. So I made one last file. Called it play_me.mp4. It was a montage. His words. His lies.
His bedroom whispers and breakfast texts to 4 different women in the same week.
I burned it onto a drive. Put it in a box. Wrapped it in silk. Wrote a note on top.
From the one you said wasn't wife material.
Then I called someone who owed me a favor. A woman on the venue staff. She said she could get me in. No questions asked. All she said was,
Are you sure?
and all I said was,
I'm done being quiet.
there's always another woman.
That's what they don't tell you when you're finally starting to piece yourself back together. That you weren't the first to break. That you weren't the first to be called too much.
Or not quite enough.
Or worse, wrong for the long term.
You think the betrayal is fresh. Unique. Just yours. But really?
It's a pattern.
A blueprint. A rerun with a slightly different cast.
I didn't find out from creeping through his socials.
Or digging through emails. I found out from a woman who found me first. Her name was Natalie.
She messaged me 2 days after I finished building the first confession folder.
I hadn't even decided what to do with it yet.
If you're planning to go public, she wrote, I have something you'll want to see.
No emojis.
No punctuation.
Just that.
At first, I rolled my eyes.
Assumed it was someone looking for attention. Or drama. Or a front row seat to mine. But then I clicked. It was him. In a mirror selfie. Shirtless. His smile. My kitchen. My dog asleep in the background. My necklace on the counter. And the timestamp? 7 months before he looked me in the eye and told me,
You're not wife material.
I stared at it for 5 minutes before I replied,
Can we talk?
We got on a call that night. She sounded tired.
But not the kind that comes from lack of sleep. The kind that comes from waking up.
She told me everything.
That they'd been seeing each other for over a year.
That he told her I was an ex who couldn't move on. That I was still texting him. Still calling. Still in love. He painted me like a ghost that haunted him. And she believed it. For a while. Until the lies started to slip. A photo on his phone he couldn't explain. An email thread that made no sense. A receipt from a restaurant that didn't match the story. Then she started looking. Really looking. And what she found was me. But I wasn't the only one. Do you know about Jay? She asked.
I didn't. Jay was woman number 3.
Still dating him. Still posting pictures. Possibly pregnant. Possibly engaged.
That's when it hit me. This wasn't a story about a breakup.
This was a franchise. Natalie and I started comparing timelines.
We built spreadsheets. Google Docs. A drive folder named Truth.
She plotted dates. I pulled photos.
We color-coded cities.
Synced time zones.
And then the pattern emerged.
He hadn't just overlapped us. He duplicated us. Same compliments. Same nicknames. Same playlist shared with 3 women. Same voice notes copied and pasted.
We found screenshots of him sending, "You're the only one who sees me,"
to 3 different women. Within 4 days.
We laughed at first.
It was so ridiculous it felt fictional. But then it turned sick.
The kind of realization that makes your stomach drop.
Because it wasn't just lies. It was calculated recycling.
We tried to reach Jay, sent her a private message.
No reply. But the read receipts told us everything. She saw it. She didn't block us. But she didn't say a word. And I remembered what that felt like.
Denial wrapped in silence.
Natalie and I made a choice.
If she couldn't speak,
we would. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about clarity. About ending the cycle before it swallowed someone else.
I started building part 2 of the confession folder.
But this time, it had names, dates, flight itineraries,
screenshots with GPS locations.
It was a map of every lie, every bed,
every promise made twice.
Natalie helped narrate the voiceover. She read one of the texts.
"If you ruin this, I'll deny everything."
And I kept that clip.
Because the only thing worse than betrayal is how certain they are that you'll stay quiet.
I wasn't quiet. Not anymore. I saved every file. Zipped the folder. Put it on a drive. And labeled it.
Play me.
Because this story wasn't about heartbreak. It was about recognition.
Not just for me, but for every woman before me.
And every woman who might come after. If we didn't finally press play.
It didn't happen on a dramatic night.
There wasn't a storm. No slammed doors. No screaming. Just quiet. Eerily quiet. It was a Thursday afternoon. The kind of day where nothing should go wrong.
The kind of day where you're sipping coffee, running errands, checking off tasks like life is just moving forward. I was finishing a client call in the kitchen.
Dressed in soft gray. Hair tied back. Calm. Focused. He came home early, which was rare. Almost never happened. My first thought wasn't dread. It was curiosity. He stood in the doorway. No bag. No smile. Just arms folded. Eyes still. Waiting. I finished my sentence on the call. Hit mute. "We should talk," he said. My stomach didn't drop. My throat didn't tighten. Not yet. But I knew that voice.
The tone that people use when they are about to hand you a decision they've already made.
I nodded slowly. Closed my laptop with 2 fingers. And waited. He didn't look me in the eye at first. He looked around the room. Anywhere but at me. "You're incredible," he started. And that was the beginning of the end. The compliment sandwich. A pre-packaged breakup strategy. I almost wanted to laugh. He went on. "You're smart. Driven. Beautiful.
Ambitious. You're going to go far." And then he paused. Exhaled like the next line hurt him more than it could ever hurt me. "But I think we want different things."
That sentence had been rehearsed. I could hear the polish. The practice. He'd said it in his head. Maybe even out loud.
Maybe to her.
I didn't interrupt. I didn't cry. I just let him talk. And then he dropped it.
"You're just not wife material."
I felt it hit. Not like a slap. More like cold water. All over my chest. Wife material. Like I was fabric.
A bolt on a shelf he browsed. Tugged between his fingers.
Measured for texture. Decided wasn't quite what he wanted for the final cut. Like I was a style that didn't suit his season. He said it kindly. As if it was wisdom.
As if he was doing me a favor. "I need someone more adaptable. Someone who doesn't challenge me so much. Someone who understands that life isn't always about building. It's about being."
He meant someone easier.
He meant someone who wouldn't ask questions when things didn't add up. Someone who would smile politely and fold herself into his expectations.
I remember looking past him. At the coffee pot. At the tiny plant we both forgot to water.
At the light flickering above the sink. Because if I looked at him, really looked, I might say something that would shake the room. And I wasn't giving him that satisfaction.
I didn't argue. I didn't try to prove my value. Because I knew it. Even if he didn't. So I just nodded. Once. Okay, I said. He looked confused. Maybe disappointed. Like he expected more resistance. But what he didn't know was this. He wasn't breaking me. He was freeing me. Because from that moment forward, he could no longer say he didn't know who I was. He chose to walk away from a woman who knew herself. And that was on him. That night, he slept on the couch. Not because he felt guilty, but because it was easier. I could hear the hum of his phone vibrating twice. He answered one of them. He whispered. I pretended to be asleep. By morning, he packed. Lightly. No emotion. Took the hoodie he always stole from me. Left his razor. Didn't hug me. Didn't say goodbye. Just walked out the door like I was an Airbnb. Something temporary. A nice stay. But not worth unpacking for. And then it was silent. Until a week later. When he texted. Hope you're doing okay. Just wanted to check in. I didn't reply. Then a month passed. Then came the engagement post. Then Natalie. Then everything else. And still, what I remember most clearly was the phrase he used like it was neutral. Not wife material. I repeated it in the mirror. Once. Then again. Until it became meaningless. Until it became funny. Because wife material isn't about obedience. Or softness. Or silence. Wife material is truth. Wife material is strength. Wife material is choosing yourself when someone else refuses to see you. He wanted quiet. I became focused. He wanted soft. He wanted someone who would disappear when dismissed. Instead, I became someone unforgettable. So no. I wasn't wife material. I was something else entirely. I was a narrator, and the story I was about to tell would be the one he never forgot. The first time I saw the engagement post, I didn't feel anger. I felt clarity. Because it confirmed what I already suspected, that the timeline wasn't just short. It overlapped. He hadn't taken time to process. To reflect. To grow. He had simply replaced. Swipe. Delete. Add to cart. The post popped up on my Explore page. One photo. Perfectly lit. Her hand held up, a ring catching sunlight. His hand holding hers. Her caption read. Forever with my best friend ring. His caption read. She said yes. And the comments? Full of hearts. Of congratulations. Of people writing, you two are goals. I stared at it. Not because I was jealous. But because the ring looked familiar. So familiar it made my chest tighten. It was the one I showed him in passing once. On a lazy night. Laptop on my knees. Feet in his lap. I pointed and said, that's the kind of ring I'd choose. Not flashy. Not huge. Just thoughtful. And now it was on her finger. I didn't cry. I didn't throw my phone. I didn't spiral. I just took a screenshot. And opened a folder on my desktop. Confession folder, phase 2. Because now, the game had changed. He thought he had control. Thought he'd walked away with the final word. Thought he was safe. But his mistake wasn't leaving me. It was thinking I would stay silent. It was thinking I didn't have receipts. So I went through our texts. My photos. My voice memos. Calendar invites. I reconstructed the truth. I color-coded dates. Red for lies. Yellow for overlap. Green for undeniable evidence. And then I compared them to the dates he was posting photos with her. 2 days after he told me I wasn't wife material, he took her to the same restaurant where he celebrated my last promotion. 4 days after he ghosted me, he flew her to the city where we spent our anniversary weekend. He thought deleting messages deleted truth. But I had backups. Notes. Screenshots. I had a memory like a steel trap. And then came the group chat. A friend sent me a screenshot of a girl named Ava. She was mutuals with him. She commented on a photo of the proposal. So happy for you both. You deserve it after everything. After everything. That phrase echoed. What everything? I messaged Ava. She told me what he told her. That I had been obsessed. That I kept reaching out. That I wasn't over it and had made things difficult. She said she felt bad for him. I sent her my timeline. She didn't reply right away. But a day later, she sent me an apology. I didn't know. He made it sound like you were unstable. I feel awful. He hadn't just rewritten the truth. He'd published a whole new version of me. And people bought it.
Because it's easier to believe the woman left behind must have done something wrong. Easier to pity a man who claims he tried.
But I had evidence. And now, I had momentum. This wasn't about ruining a wedding. It was about reclaiming my name. This wasn't about her. It was about him. I didn't want his attention. I wanted his exposure. So I planned it. Carefully. Strategically.
Like the project manager he once said he admired in me, before calling that same strength controlling. I created the structure.
I labeled the files. I printed the timeline. And I bought a new flash drive. Silver. To match the dress I'd wear. Because if he wanted to give her a soft launch, I'd give them a public finale. The wedding was scheduled for 4 p.m. I arrived at 3:26. Not early. Not late. Just precise.
There's something sacred about being deliberate, especially when you're about to undo a lie dressed up as a fairy tale.
I wasn't on the guest list. But I didn't need to be.
I had a favor, a friend, and a folder filled with truth.
The dress I wore was silver. Tasteful. Tailored. Sharp. Not bridal. Not bitter. Just undeniable.
I walked through the side entrance, heels echoing against polished tile, each step deliberate.
Measured. Behind the closed doors of the bridal suite upstairs, I could hear them laughing. The bridal party. The hairstylist.
The final spritz of perfume before she walked into what she thought was the rest of her life.
She was happy. Of course she was.
She didn't know.
She still believed she was marrying someone good. I kept my eyes forward.
Walked past stacks of catering crates and cords and water pitchers. Past the humming of stage lights and polite nods from staff too busy to question who I was.
Then I found the door. Staff only. I slipped inside. It was quiet. A storage room. Chairs stacked like dominoes. A folding table. A broom. Dim light and chilled air. Perfect. I stood there. Still. Centered.
Letting the coldness sink into my skin, not to chill me, but to sharpen me.
I opened the clasp of my clutch. Felt the cold edge of the flash drive inside. Silver. Labeled with one word. Play. I ran my fingers across it once. Just once. Then closed the bag. I closed my eyes. Checked in with myself. Phone, off. Shoes, quiet. Hair, smooth. Voice, steady. I was ready. More ready than he ever deserved.
A bridesmaid walked past the cracked door.
Didn't glance twice. Didn't know the storm hiding just feet away.
At 3:38, I slipped out. I didn't head straight for the main hall. I walked the perimeter. Let my body move with the rhythm of control.
I passed the floral arch. The dessert table.
The guest book that said write a message for the happy couple.
I considered it. Just for a second. But my message would come another way. Every movement I made had intention. Every breath measured.
There were no jitters, no hesitations. Only the weight of truth tucked inside a silver flash drive, and years of being told I was too much. I peeked through the hallway door that faced the ceremony room. From this angle, I could see the back of the aisle. Rows of carefully seated guests. Men straightening their jackets. Women adjusting heels under flowing pastel dresses. Laughter. Murmurs. Phones being tucked into clutches. And at the end of that aisle, the altar. Framed by florals so pale they looked like spun sugar. A photographer was doing a last-minute lens check. And right in front of him, there he was. The groom. My ex. The man who once said I was too opinionated to be a wife. He looked sharp. Handsome, even. But if you looked closely, like I was looking now, you'd see it. The tension behind the smile. The shift in his stance when someone got too close. He was nervous. But not about marrying her. About being exposed. He had no idea how close it was. I waited a moment longer. Then I walked. Around the far side. Past the buffet setup. The DJ adjusting wires. The planner double-checking the run sheet. She glanced at me. Paused. I held her gaze for half a second too long. And she moved on. By the time I reached the rear of the room, it was 3:44. The ceremony had started to hush. Guests seated. The officiant sipping water. A violinist playing something delicate in the corner. And him? Still smiling. Still clueless. I inhaled once. Smoothed my dress. Stepped forward. Each heel click on the marble floor was a clock tick. A countdown. 1, 2, 3. I could feel eyes turning. First row by row. Then clusters. People don't expect disruption at a wedding. They expect confession in movies.
But I wasn't a plot twist.
I was the truth.
And then he saw me.
His face didn't fall, it froze.
Like someone hit pause on a man who only knew how to move forward. His lips parted. His shoulders pulled back. His fingers clenched and unclenched at his side.
I kept walking. By the third row, whispers had become full voices.
By the second row, phones were out. I never looked away.
And by the time I reached the front, I had passed everyone who mattered.
And stood in front of the only person who didn't. I didn't look at her. Not yet.
I looked at him.
He opened his mouth. I raised a finger.
You said I wasn't wife material, I said. But I'm definitely the reason this wedding won't happen.
Gasps. The planner looked frozen.
The bride turned.
Her smile faltered.
Her bouquet trembled.
Then I stepped to the side. Handed the DJ the flash drive. He looked at me like he already knew. And I nodded. He slid the drive in. Clicked the file. The screen behind the altar lit up. And I walked to the side. Took my seat. Because I wasn't there to fight. I wasn't there to cry. I was there to let him listen. One lie at a time.
The room was silent before the first sound played.
And then, his voice. Clear. Confident. Lying.
I promise, there's no one else.
She's crazy. She's obsessed with me.
You're the one I want. His words filled the space like incense, thick, suffocating, impossible to ignore. The screen behind him flickered with proof.
Photos. Screenshots.
Audio recordings of phone calls at midnight.
One message read.
Delete this when you read it. Another. I miss your buddy. Another. Don't worry, she thinks we're just friends.
The audience stopped breathing. The bride?
She didn't move.
Her lips parted. Her grip on the bouquet loosened. A petal dropped.
Then another message appeared on screen.
From the same timeline as his engagement photos. Give me one more night before I do this thing. I just need to say goodbye the right way. The whispers turned to gasps. The gasps turned to stares. The DJ paused the video at my signal. I stood. Looked at him. He looked destroyed. No words. Just a man unraveling in public. He turned to her. It wasn't like that. She stepped back.
Don't.
Her voice cracked.
Strong, but hurt. The planner tried to speak, but the bride held up her hand.
She turned to me. Did you know the whole time?
Not the whole time,
I said.
But enough.
She looked back at him. And you? You let me plan a wedding with you?
While this was happening.
He tried to reach for her hand. She pulled it away.
Then, in front of everyone, she pulled the ring off her finger.
Give this to one of the others, she said. And handed it to him. He stood there, holding his own mistake in his palm. I didn't say anything else. Didn't have to. She walked off the stage. Straight down the aisle.
Out the doors. The guests parted like waves. Not one stopped her. I waited 3 beats.
Then followed. My heels steady. My spine straight. He looked like he wanted to say something. But he didn't know which woman to say it to. So he said nothing. And I didn't look back. Not once.
Because sometimes closure doesn't come from conversation.
It comes from the sound of a door closing behind you. Or in this case,
a projector shutting off. To every girl who's ever been told she's not enough, or too much, or not the kind you marry.
Remember this. You don't need to be wife material. You just need to be made of something he can't forget. Even if he spends the rest of his life trying to. I could feel eyes turning. First row by row. Then clusters.
People don't expect disruption at a wedding. They expect confession in movies.
But I wasn't a plot twist.
I was the truth.
And then he saw me.
His face didn't fall, it froze.
Like someone hit pause on a man who only knew how to move forward. His lips parted. His shoulders pulled back. His fingers clenched and unclenched at his side. I kept walking. By the third row, whispers had become full voices. By the second row, phones were out. I never looked away.
And by the time I reached the front, I had passed everyone who mattered.
And stood in front of the only person who didn't. I didn't look at her. Not yet.
I looked at him.
He opened his mouth. I raised a finger.
You said I wasn't wife material, I said. But I'm definitely the reason this wedding won't happen.
Gasps. The planner looked frozen.
The bride turned.
Her smile faltered.
Her bouquet trembled.
Then I stepped to the side. Handed the DJ the flash drive. He looked at me like he already knew. And I nodded. He slid the drive in. Clicked the file. The screen behind the altar lit up. And I walked to the side. Took my seat. Because I wasn't there to fight. I wasn't there to cry. I was there to let him listen. One lie at a time.
The room was silent before the first sound played.
And then, his voice. Clear. Confident. Lying.
I promise, there's no one else.
She's crazy. She's obsessed with me.
You're the one I want. His words filled the space like incense, thick, suffocating, impossible to ignore. The screen behind him flickered with proof.
Photos. Screenshots.
Audio recordings of phone calls at midnight.
One message read.
Delete this when you read it. Another. I miss your buddy. Another. Don't worry, she thinks we're just friends.
The audience stopped breathing. The bride?
She didn't move.
Her lips parted. Her grip on the bouquet loosened. A petal dropped. Then another message appeared on screen. From the same timeline as his engagement photos. Give me one more night before I do this thing. I just need to say goodbye the right way. The whispers turned to gasps. The gasps turned to stares. The DJ paused the video at my signal. I stood. Looked at him. He looked destroyed. No words. Just a man unraveling in public. He turned to her. It wasn't like that. She stepped back. Don't. Her voice cracked.
Strong, but hurt. The planner tried to speak, but the bride held up her hand.
She turned to me. Did you know the whole time? Not the whole time, I said.
But enough.
She looked back at him. And you? You let me plan a wedding with you?
While this was happening.
He tried to reach for her hand. She pulled it away.
Then, in front of everyone, she pulled the ring off her finger.
Give this to one of the others, she said. And handed it to him. He stood there, holding his own mistake in his palm. I didn't say anything else. Didn't have to. She walked off the stage. Straight down the aisle.
Out the doors. The guests parted like waves. Not one stopped her. I waited 3 beats.
Then followed. My heels steady. My spine straight. He looked like he wanted to say something. But he didn't know which woman to say it to. So he said nothing. And I didn't look back. Not once.
Because sometimes closure doesn't come from conversation.
It comes from the sound of a door closing behind you. Or in this case,
a projector shutting off. To every girl who's ever been told she's not enough, or too much, or not the kind you marry.
Remember this. You don't need to be wife material. You just need to be made of something he can't forget. Even if he spends the rest of his life trying to.